All right, week 2, y'all, of this Dreamer Challenge, 52-week, year-long Dreamer Challenge, posting every Sunday if possible. If not, we'll post the day before or day after. So it is February 2nd, 2025, and if you can't tell, I got pink eye. Not an excuse, just a reality. Thank you, Freya. Probably got it from my dog. Beware letting your dog lick your face all the time, specifically if they lick your eye after eating questionable things off the ground. There you go. There's one tip. So I want to do a quick recap and just talk about the importance of tracking. So something that I find that helps keep me motivated and committed, and this has had various forms throughout, while I pursued writing, is keeping track of my writing hours. Now, a lot of people, will keep track of their word count daily, weekly. It kind of depends on what frequency that you want and what makes the most sense and what doesn't demoralize you. For example, for me with writing, I keep track every day. I create an Excel sheet and have one for the entire year of 2025. They're all in columns. All the dates are in column A. Column B is just hours, and I plug in my time in there. And if you don't write every day, let's say you write just on the weekends, or, if your dream is, something around pursuing a side gig and turning that into more of a full-time thing, but you only have time to do it on the weekends because, you got family, you got other obligations, you literally don't have time to pursue it during the week, then maybe tracking every day isn't necessarily the most beneficial thing, because what we're trying to create is positive psychology and momentum. And if seeing a bunch of zeros because you're daily tracking something that you only do once a week, then maybe don't do that. Maybe just do a weekly total. So that's something that works really well for me and something that I've done for a while. At one point I had this thing literally called the Big Ass Calendar, and it was huge. It was probably as big as this wall is behind me right here, this section from there to there. And it was literally on the walls where I would see it every day. And just that little bit of pressure and that commitment gave me motivation. And that's something I want to talk about, is motivation follows commitment, not necessarily the other way around. And so part of this whole tracker for the entire year is a motivation to show up and share the journey, but also to keep me motivated in pursuing the journey. So, telling your best friends, telling your family, telling people that you care about and understand and will support you in pursuing your dream is important. Maybe it's just posting at the end of the day, how many words you wrote on Twitter or something. Or maybe it's just, at the end of every week you send someone a message so you could have an accountability partner. And the importance of this is motivation follows commitment for the most part. Now, motivation may come in sparks and strides, and as you build momentum, then you'll have more motivation to keep showing up because you're committed to this thing. And as you have more momentum, you start seeing more results. And as the results come in, that in itself generates more motivation and more commitment to stay true to this. And that's part of why I love tracking. And so I track every single day how much I write, even if I didn't write anything, just a big old zero in there. But at the end of every month, I go back and look and see what I did. And then I can track that across time and see, all right, have I written more this month? Have I not? And through that, actually tracking it, it also creates another thing in your mind. And you can do this in a journal too. I used to do this in a journal quite a bit, where you could have a weekly checkbox of did I write today? That's it. It doesn't matter if you wrote for 5 minutes, 2 hours, 23 hours, if you wrote 2 words or 2,000 words. Did you write today? Start small and start with things that are achievable and realistic. And I know some people are oh, you got to just go all in and do 2,000 words every day. And it's well, yeah, if you've built up to that, if that's something that you've done in the past and you have tactics and strategies and support systems around you to achieve that, whatever your dream is, then sure, go for that if that's what you really want. But I like starting small and achievable and building up to those higher levels of commitment and motivation and showing up and doing the work when I've actually put systems in place that allow me to succeed, instead of shooting for I love the beginning of a new year. Everyone's oh, I have this goal to run a marathon, and it's like, oh, cool. How many times do you run a week? Oh, I don't run a week. Do you have running shoes? No, I don't even have running shoes. And you're like, okay, well, your first goal shouldn't be to run a marathon. It should be maybe just to go buy running shoes. So then you can eventually run the marathon, and maybe start with just putting your shoes on. And if that's your win for the day, like, fuck yeah, celebrate that. Like, do that, you know? But don't be like, I'm going to run a marathon this week when you haven't run at all and you don't even have running shoes. You know, so start with small achievable things and then build up to where you are running, 50, 60, 70 miles a week. Haven't run a marathon in a long time, so I don't know if that's actually an appropriate mileage, but something to think about. So in doing that, tracking is a tool that helps you stay committed and builds motivation as it aggregates, because there's this snowball effect or momentum effect of you're shoving this snowball down a hill and you're allowing gravity momentum to build, and it can generate more energy, it can create more motivation, it can build to where you are spending more and more time, you're more enthusiastic about showing up for your dream because you're actually starting to see results. And so that's the importance of tracking, and has been for me, is when I can actually see results. Like the worst thing, the reason why I pretty much gave up on writing for a little while, I wasn't doing it, is because I'd show up for like 2 hours plus like in a day and like over the week, and like I just, like, words weren't happening on the page. Like I had written this entire draft, 110,000 words of this like epic fantasy with business elements novel, and I just couldn't figure out what needed to change in there, even though I had a bunch of great feedback from critique partners and stuff, another great motivation and commitment tool tactic, and building a in-person or online virtual support network to have more accountability, and also just to like talk through tactics and things. Highly recommend. And like through that, being able to see finally, once I got through that break and could start seeing a little bit of results, like it just started with like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there of actually like putting some words on a page, being like, oh, this is how the story could change. Like I could cut out this whole middle part, make you care about a character in the beginning, set the stakes even higher. I could get rid of the necromancy piece, because then if someone died in the book, like a main character who, potentially did, then, they could be brought back to life. And it's like, oh, well, if anyone could be brought back to life, like what's the stakes? Like, why wouldn't someone go all in, to save their family, to get rid of their debt, to pay off their magical school? So it's like, to increase those stakes, then how could I set that in the beginning? And once I figured that out, then I was able to take, and have been taking, some small steps. And so like last month, I have a tracker for my total word count, for my total hours I put in. And so starting in February now, I'm going to track those hours and see, all right, comparatively, 31 months last month, 28 this, did I do about the same hours? Did I do more? Did I do less? What did I learn from that, successfully and unsuccessfully, and how can I apply that to show up better? So that's something to think about too. And, one of the things talking about is like changing your environment so that way you can succeed, right? And so not only changing the people you're around, like that's one of the biggest things as far as, having a dream and like pursuing that, is get around other people who have dreams that are actually working on it and doing the work, because you're going to be in a peer group of people who not only will support you, but they'll have social learning. So even if it's like, I'm writing a novel, someone wants to run a marathon, another person wants to save up $1,000 for an emergency fund, because you never know what's going to happen. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Then it's like, cool, we're all in the same space. Let's share what's worked for us, and let's support each other and our dreams, because that person who wants to put away $1,000 for emergency fund eventually wants to be like contributing to investments, so that way they can be financially free in 10 years. And so that way, their kids never have to worry about like going hungry or having an unstable home, because they're financially secure based upon what they do. Now that's their long-term goal, but the immediate goal is just the $1,000 emergency fund to put them in a safe, secure space to have some stability upon which a foundation can be built. So that environment of building that, like with writing, like I love going to the library. Why do I love going to the library? Because it's not in my home, it's not in the apartment. I don't have distractions. Like even now I'm recording this out on our balcony, and there's like cars going by. We live right next to like a coffee co. So like things are happening, and I'm like a golden retriever, and there's like a squirrel over there, and flags blowing in the wind. So there's these distractions that are naturally in this environment which could be beneficial for some things. But for me, writing, getting in the flow of zone and how I know I like to work, the optimal environment is getting to the library where it's calm, it's quiet, there are no distractions. I go check into a room for free, I sit in there and I write for 4 hours. That is optimal for me because I can control the entire space. No one's like walking by and distracting me. I don't have people coming in. I'm not at my own home and being like, man, I really should do the dishes. I should make some food for tonight. I should probably do the laundry because I don't have any more clothes to work out in. I really need to go pay that utility bill. I don't even know how to set that up. Do I need to do that online or not? You see how these things like compound and distract you and pull you out? So like creating space, and it doesn't even have to be like, it can still be within the apartment itself. Like I could create space like one corner of the apartment. I could be like, this is my writing space. In here, the only thing that matters when I step into that space is writing. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever. Like when I step into that space, I'm pursuing my dream and that's all that matters. And so thinking about like the importance of environment and how you can like tweak those things. And it's not even like you don't need to go to the library, you could do this at home. Maybe it's like when I sit down at the dining table or on the couch or on the floor, because I like working from the floor sometimes, then it's like, cool, what is my environment? And for me, it's my laptop, like noise canceling headphones or just some headphones, playing some music, getting in the flow of things. Like, what are these little tactics, but little environmental things that you can engineer and shift without having to actually spend a lot of money or anything, to like create an environment where you can actually succeed. And it doesn't have to be a huge step. It's just small little tweaks that aggregate over the long time. And that's why we're doing this, like this video compared to hopefully week 52 will be drastically better than this video. But that's because over those 51 weeks, I'm going to learn a lot of things, and small aggregate victories and learnings along the way are going to stack up and accumulate. So that's just something to think about. Like, and also the importance of environment is like, I'm not trying to work on my dream or my side hustle or write whenever it's like, oh, I know we're having friends over to the house Saturday morning. It's like, well, then that means I'm not going to be able to write Saturday morning if we're having friends over. So it's like, successful people forecast. They're thinking about like, you're sitting down, you're thinking about your week and you're like, cool, when can I engineer or create some time or choose some time to work on my dream? Or, if it's spending time with the family, like when can I engineer time to do this? Like, so then it's like, cool, what are the things that are unchangeable? And it's like, I work 9 to 5. Cool, you work 9 to 5. What do you do on your lunch break? I used to, when I worked in an office doing like PR and stuff, I would show up early and get writing done before work actually started because the office was quiet, it was dead, it was cold, it was dark, it was really nice. It wasn't my apartment at home where I was living at the time, so I was able to go in without distractions and do that. But during your lunch, it's like, cool, if your goal is to, like work out 3 times a week and improve your well-being and health overall, so that way you can show up better in every other aspect of your life, not only just for yourself, but everyone you love and care about, then it's like, okay, on my lunch break, after I eat lunch, if you have an hour lunch, a 30-minute lunch, whatever, the first half, I'm going to eat lunch, and I'm immediately going to get up, and I'm going to go on a walk for however long, and then I'll circle back in time that I can, put on some more deodorant if you're in Texas, you know what I mean? And then like show up back to work and like be ready to go. So it's like figuring out times where you can succeed during your week, as well as times like, oh man, like Sunday we have, Sunday coming up, Super Bowl party, sick. Probably not going to write at the Super Bowl party at a friend's house. Very fortunate and happy to go, but that is not the time and place for me to work on that. Now, if I get ideas for my dream or my side hustle or something, like, yeah, I'm going to pull out a note on my phone or like a little notebook and write those down and jot those ideas down real quick, but I'm not going to take my laptop and my headphones and my water and like my snack and, go write at this party. So it's like setting yourself up for success by thinking about, and you don't need to think about like, you can think about the month ahead, you can think about the year ahead, but like, let's be honest and realistic, like who knows what's happening with life? Like, I don't fucking know. So I'm like 1 week ahead is about as far as I forecast. Now, like if obviously you're coming up to Christmas or Thanksgiving next month and it's like, cool, probably not going to do as much work potentially during those times because I know those are set and having a ton of family over and stuff like that. So I would say keep it to either like the next day, or like you can do a week. And as far as like bigger set things, like sure, you can think about the month ahead if you really want, but I'm like more of a week at a time kind of person. And that's what I think about, and what I obsess about is like, where can I create time so I can actually succeed, as well as times where I know like, oh, I'm not going to get stuff done during this like 9 to noon block, but during my lunch break, I can get 30 minutes of writing in. And it's like, well, 30 minutes of writing doesn't sound like that much. I mean, like 5 minutes of writing doesn't sound that much, but you're like, if I do 5 minutes every single day, like that's what, 35 minutes a week? Like that's stacked up over an entire year is a lot of time. I mean, what's that? 356, 182 hours? 182 hours if you just do 5 minutes a day. It's not quite right math, but whatever. You get the point. So yeah, just thinking about, setting yourself up and forecasting so that way you can succeed, instead of being unsuccessful and just trying to react all the time. And obviously, like, surprises happen because they are called surprises because we can't foresee them, and they happen to us regardless. And then like in those points, you're going to be like, how can I be adaptable and resilient? And that's going to come down to like priorities. If it's like a good surprise, like, oh, my like sister just like came into town from Houston, and it's like, sick, I'm going to spend time with her. And I'm going to park some of my time, and I'm going to work on my dream. Like, that's cool. Maybe I'll shift that and do a little bit more work early in the morning because she likes to sleep in, or maybe I'll do that a little more work in the evening, figuring out and being adaptable and resilient to that as well. Or other things unfortunately happen and that aren't so great, and it's like, cool, this really sucks, and this was a super shitty week for a bunch of reasons. Couldn't foresee that, but what can I do to get back on track and build that momentum? Because not only is like pursuing our dreams just for ourselves, but it's also for like everyone else to share about and like show that they can achieve other things, but it's also something that we get, gratification from. Like, we feel fulfillment for it. Something that we do not for just hopefully financial means, but also because it's something that we love and care about, so we get fulfillment and like joy out of it. So it's like, yeah, especially during those times where like unfortunate surprises pop up, it's like, cool, I'm going to go do a writing session, or I'm going to go to the gym because I had a really shitty week and there's nothing more I want to do than go like do a hard workout and then just like sit in a pool of sweat and think about moving forward from there. So think about that, and then think about something else I think about is like a lot of people have a ton of like tactics and like use this tool, like use Grammarly, and then use this chat writing AI thing to like help your writing, and like use this and use all these tools and stuff, and you got to figure out all the right tools before you can even start. And it's like, well, actually none of that really matters, because if you never start because you're trying to figure out tools all the time, you're actually never going to get anywhere, and all the tools in the right world don't really matter. So think about more about focusing on the asset. Tools are great, they're complementary and unnecessary. If you have a great asset, if your dream, whatever it may be, focus on that. You don't need to dial in, like for the marathon thing, you don't need to dial in what kind of shoelaces or like way to tie your shoes is actually going to be better, so that way they don't come unknotted during your like super long runs and like distract you and like take a few seconds off your time. Like, you don't need to dial in what kind of like sweat wicking socks and like what percentage blend of polyester to whatever. Like, okay, the main thing is, if you're like hyper focusing and procrastinating and like doing so much research into those details and like that specific tools, that it is stopping you from doing the thing that is your dream, which is the writing, which is the running, which is putting away money so that you can be financially free, so that way you can support not only yourself but the people that you care about. Or if it is, pursuing whatever it may be, if that hyper focus on tools is stopping you from doing the thing that is the main thing, like, don't do that. Keep the main thing, and then be like, cool, after X amount of time, X amount of energy, X amount of work put into the dream, I heard about this real cool tool. I want to check it out to see if it can help improve my process. That is great. The tool is not the process. The process is the process. A tool augments the process and should make it more efficient. So it's like, cool, after you do the main thing, then be like, cool, I'm going to devote 5 minutes to researching this tool. And if it takes longer than 5 minutes to get a bunch of feedback on why this tool would be super useful, then it's probably not going to be that useful, and you should just keep the main thing, and whatever tools that you use, whatever systems that you use, whatever way you tie your shoelaces that you use, like just keep that. And keep that the main thing. Like, don't focus on tools. Focus on keeping the main thing. Assets over tools. Tools, don't help you achieve your dreams. They may augment the dreams, but they don't happen if you're not doing the main thing. And I think the last thing, like closing off on this week, is like thinking about forecasting for next week. So, just like what's going on, how can you set yourself up for success? It's Sunday, you got a full week ahead. Even if you're watching this on a Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever day of the week, full week ahead. What can I do today to set myself up for success tomorrow? And like putting a time cap on it. Like, I don't need to spend 30 minutes or an hour thinking about this. Like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. What can I do to set myself up for this week? And it's like, cool. Personally, I've already made snacks for the entire week because I like meal prepping and having food already made, so that way I don't have to worry about it during the week. I've already, in a Google Calendar, set little time blocks that I can work on my writing and dream around other big things that I cannot move, that are immutable. Studying for firefighting, taking tests, applying for an application, going to volunteer at an animal rescue sanctuary with my wife. Like, those things, immutable. Keeping the main thing. And then just being kind to yourself, right? Because this is, like, pursuing your dream, it is a journey. And that's the thing, is like joy and happiness and fulfillment, and like hopefully there's accolades and awards and like honors and like wealth in all forms and fashions at the end of this along the way. But the thing too is like, man, like, do you want it to be shitty now, or do you want to like find ways to make more joy and have more fun along the way, so that way you can live a well-lived life and pursue the dream? And actually, even if you don't achieve like whatever the current goal and idea is, like, is it being a New York Times bestseller? Maybe. But it's probably just writing damn good books and sharing it with people who actually care and resonate with it and like changing their lives. Me enjoying the journey along the way and growing and being like challenged as a writer and author more than anything. Like, that New York Times bestseller? Cool, that would be awesome. Is that the main thing? No. But learning to enjoy the process along the way and not beating yourself up, which is something I do all the time. It's just an ongoing process, because we're not here for a week. Like, this isn't a sprint. This isn't, November. It's not NaNoWriMo. We're like, what's a sustainable way to just keep going and keep showing up, and like thinking about this and like writing down little tactics and little strategies and little like quotes or things that inspire you, and like putting that in like a folder, or like sending that to yourself, or like putting it in your like DMs, or like saving those Instagram reels or videos that like just kind of pump you up and get you that little spark and that momentum, which you can pick up and then use that to create more commitment and build a little bit of momentum and allow this snowball effect to take advantage too. Because also, who knows where we're going to be at the end of 52 weeks. Like, I have no idea. I haven't like idolized version, but I know now from experience that I have no clue like what's going to happen in the next couple weeks, like in the next even couple months. Like, gonna hopefully be hired on as a firefighter and EMT. Like, who knows what that schedule and what that's going to be like, or where that's going to be. I have ideas of where I want that to be, but who knows? Writing schedule is probably going to change as that. My wife, like her business is going through transformation stuff. No idea where that's going to be. Like, us with our dog, like hopefully we're still here. Like, we may move, who knows? So who knows what happens in life, but the main thing is if we treat it as this sprint, then how can we show up and be sustainable and just keep moving along and allowing these wins and lessons that we learned along the way to aggregate into this super successful opportunity to achieve our dream, So yeah, I think don't beat yourself up. Just keep striving, keep showing up, keep doing the work, and know that you're learning along the way. It may not always look or feel like you're doing that, because it hasn't felt like that in a while. Finally has turned the corner and feels like that a little bit more. It will, because as long as you keep showing up and doing the work, and you're kind to yourself and like finding ways to find fun and find joy, like, you're not going to stop doing that. And even if the dream that you're currently working on transition to something else, because who knows what opportunities are going to come along or what your priorities may shift and change, then by that point, it's like, cool, you can take everything that you learned from that and apply it to the next thing. And the thing is, just keep having fun, keep being a great human, and yeah, let's support each other. Anyways, got to peace out. Heading to a book reading event. Rachel Hollish is speaking at Book People in Austin. My wife and I are going, and we're super stoked. And hopefully the next time I see you, this eye will be better, and we'll all be further along in pursuing our dreams, so that way together we can make the world a better place. Until then, take care. All the love, all the abundance, and all the power, and realizing your dreams. Peace.